Good morning, everybody. You are very welcome to this webinar today, and I hope that you are all keeping well and safe. And while we are isolating, why not have a look at some remote tools of how we can stay together? And just a little bit of housekeeping for this session today. I think it should be about half an hour, 40 minutes at the top. Just a little introduction. My name is Vaida Holohan, and I'm an e-learning consultant here at Enovation. I'm sharing my contact details with you, and I'm also going to share my contact details at the end of the session. So if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to get in touch. I think the mode of the presentation, I'm basically the host, and the attendees are muted because, as you can imagine, it can be distracting, and our plan for today is we're gonna have a look at the remote tools. We're gonna give you a little bit of an overview of the general features that are typically I used in web conferencing or remote tools, and we are also gonna have a look in a little bit more detail into Microsoft Teams, Zoom, and BigBlueButton. At the end of the session, we're also going to have some time for questions and answers, and you are very welcome to use the chat area to post your questions there, and hopefully I will be able to answer them. Okay, so a little bit about Enovation. We are a technology company, and we have over 300 customers worldwide and offices in Ireland, France, Poland, and the USA. The solutions that we work with are open source and such as Moodle Workplace, Totara Learn, and we also have our custom developed solution Aura Talent that is used for talent management and career development. Talking about the services that we provide, we offer consultancy, and that really is discussing the needs of client and seeing what solution works best for them and how to best meet those needs. We also offer training. So on any platforms that we host, we offer training, and it can range from a site administrator or course creator, again, depending on the needs of the client. And we also offer Moodle educator certification program that is accredited by Moodle headquarters. Sometimes the default functionality in the system is not sufficient. So if you need another additional features developed, we have a development team, and we can kind of customize and create additional functionality that is not there by default. We offer different options for hosting, and we can also assist you in content development. We have an instructional design team here at Enovation, so they can kind of create your content based on the best practice and principles. And we also have a support, like a ticketing system where you can report any queries that you might have. Okay, so in the overview section, let's think about the general use cases that virtual meeting or web conferencing teams are usually used for, and what features they usually have. Probably today, more than ever, it is important to stay connected, and you probably have a lot of meetings with your friends and colleagues, and it's very, very important to stay in touch. And those meetings can be one-on-one. So, just like a coaching session or a demo session, a conference call or a presentation. They can also be one-to-all. So similar to the webinar that we have today, where one person is a host and other people are joining as participants. And, different kind of controls and permissions are given to users depending on the use case. There could be also collaboration sessions. So in this case, the attendees have, potentially will share the webcam, will share the screen and documents that they are working on together. So I guess when choosing the remote tool that you are going to work with, it is important to consider the use case and scenarios of when you are planning to use the tool and how you're going to use it to make sure that the functionality that is essential for that use case is there. Okay, so let's have a look at the features, the typical features, say microphone, and all the permissions that are related to audio management. In the one-to-all session, typically attendees are put on mute. So because you can imagine with big numbers of attendees, it can be distractive. But again, if you have a small session even, are you going to be, is the microphone only the kind of tool that the presenter has, or are you going to pass it around, and how that interaction is going to take place? A similar thing with a webcam. A presenter typically can share, or in collaboration, perhaps other people can share their webcam too. It is actually recommended to share a webcam because we are all so easily distracted these days. And when there is a video or streaming of person talking to you, it's kind of probably more difficult to go to another stage and try and multitask and do something else. Okay, then again, sharing the screen is important, and you have to keep in mind, I guess, is what you're trying to share. Is it going to be a presentation? Are you going to navigate to different tabs and areas? Are you going to show a demo of application? So really, it is important that you are comfortable with navigating between those screens, and so that the experience is seamless. Remote tools can also be used for collaboration. And again, features such as chat can be private and can be public. And as a host and a presenter or a moderator of the session, you have control over basically who can interact with who. And chat can also be an area that is kept for the presenter only, but you can also allow private chats and where the students, for example, can interact with each other. Another collaboration tool is Whiteboard, and that can be a bit of fun and again, very, very good for collaboration where learners can come together and put in like a visual stamp on the topic that is being discussed. So really nice and kind of a fun element of the session. Breakout rooms are also available, so potentially used for bigger groups where you have to discuss different topics in closed setting. People can be put into groups, and facilitator can navigate between those groups and facilitate the discussion. And then at the end of the session, the learners can come back to the main room and present their findings. Again, it is important to think about how your learners are going to be accessing the application for the remote tools. Are they going to use the desktop, or would you like them to have mobile device access only? Because certain tools have, for example, an app, and some of them don't. So I guess it's important to know with the majority of the learners and the requirements and how they're going to be accessing. In addition to all of those, sometimes polling is available, and polling again is really good and can help to liven up the session and wake some of the students up, I guess, in some ways. So it's nice when the students know that they also can interact with the content and that they are not just spoken to, but that their input is important. Okay, so today we are going to have a look at Microsoft Teams, at Zoom, and BigBlueButton, and not so much in the kind of overview of all the features that exist and that they offer, but more focusing on how they can be integrated with the LMS part. And let's have a look at each of those one by one. We will start with Microsoft Teams. And Microsoft Teams offers video conferencing software as well as team collaboration tools. Enovation developed an Atto editor plugin that facilitates the use of Microsoft Teams via Moodle and Totara. So basically what needs to happen is you need to install a Teams meeting onto your LMS if you want to use that. And after a short configuration, just to make sure that the block appears in the text editor, you will be able to add it into any activity that has a text editor. So that can really be a label, a forum. You can even create an event in a calendar and place a Microsoft Teams link there. And I will show you some use cases that you might find useful and how it can be linked to attendance. So basically, when you need to schedule a meeting, the meeting scheduler has to have a Microsoft Teams account, and you have to be signed in order to be able to create a meeting. And once you are signed in, you click on the button to create a meeting. And again, just put in the name of the meeting. Obviously, you can define the time of the meeting and the date. And then when you click on create and add link, a link will be added to the activity that you are using. So if it is a label activity, the link is going to look as follows. And perhaps it's not the most user-friendly link and quite long and it might look off-putting. So our recommendation is to copy that link, type in the name of your meeting and hyperlink it. So it's going to be much more appealing on the eye and, the user experience is going to be better. Now, when the learner is going to come in to the course page, this is going to be their view. And for the purposes of this webinar, I set up an attendance activity with the Microsoft Teams link. And attendance activity can be used, and I think it would be a good use case for the Microsoft Teams, because you can, in addition to creating the Microsoft Teams meeting link, you can also create a corresponding session where you will see everybody who is enrolled in that course, and at the end of the meeting, you can mark attendance. In addition to that, and this is important to note that if you create a Microsoft Teams meeting in any activity, for example, forum, it's not going to be included in Moodle calendar. So if you would like for the activity to be included in Moodle calendar, I guess attendance activity would be best. And in the attendance activity, you can also define the status that you're going to be marking against after the session. So in a very kind of straightforward way, you can just say fully attended is equal 10 marks, and you can even define the 30 minutes that need to be spent in the session. Partially attended as 5 marks, and the no-show is 0. So after the session, when you are marking the attendance for the attendees, the grade will go into Gradebook. So basically, that just helps you to keep track of who attended what, and I guess it's good to have that information, because everybody likes reports, I guess. Okay, moving on. This would be the view, the learner view when they are joining the session. So the option is to download the app or join via the web interface. And they can type in their name when they are joining and choose if they are joining with a webcam or microphone only. Microsoft Teams has an app, so they can also be directed to the app if they are using a mobile device, which usually helps. It's nice to be mobile and to be able to access the meeting. This would be the view of presenter controls while using Microsoft Teams. And basically, as in all the tools, presenter will have more controls than just an attendee. So it is possible to use the whiteboard. It is possible to share your screen and also start recording the session. Hey, I'm hearing some background noise here. I'm just wondering if anybody of the attendees could mute themselves.
Muted. Unmuted. Muted. Unmuted.
That would be fantastic. So thanks for that. And basically, with the recordings for the session, when you are recording the session in Microsoft Teams, the recording is saved in Microsoft Stream. And there is an option to share an embedded link back into the course. However, the learners will need to have Microsoft account to view it. So as a workaround, our recommendation would be to download the video, upload it into your YouTube channel and make it unlisted, and then share an embed link into your LMS, like that. So that will make sure that everybody who needs to see it can see it. Okay, let's have a look at Zoom. Zoom has gained a lot of popularity recently, and there are some concerns about Zoom bombing and potentially uninvited guests joining the sessions, and that can happen. But I guess, with the correct settings, you can lock the meetings and you can use the password. So there are ways to work around that. But basically, if Zoom Meeting is your chosen tool, you can use a Zoom Meeting plugin to be able to add the activities onto your LMS. And basically, if you have that plugin installed and some background configuration needs to happen in site administration side, where APIs and secret keys are exchanged between the system, and then you can just add meeting like you would add as an activity. So, if you are a trainer in a course, you go into that course, turn editing on, and just add a Zoom activity. When a Zoom activity is added, this is how it would look on a page, on a course page for the learner, and it is directly linked to the calendar. So that's good, I guess. You don't have to kind of think about how the learner is going to find out about the date, and the date can also be included in the title for the session. And when they click on the link to that activity, the learner then can see excuse me, just general housekeeping information such as the start time, the duration, if you are using the password, if password is required or not, and the status of the session. And then they can just click on the link to join the session. So that's straightforward enough. An alternative way to use Zoom Meeting would be to use an LTI tool. And an LTI Pro has to be installed into your Zoom account. And then again, some background behind the scenes site administration configuration needs to happen. And then when this is done, you can add external tool. External tool is an LTI tool, so it stands for Learning Tools Interoperability, and you can add an external tool to your course. And then when you are adding it, if you just click on the Zoom meeting, it will help you to create the Zoom meeting as follows. So basically, it's more integrated than just Zoom meetings, the LTI tool, and it helps you to kind of have a list. Everything is in one place. You can have a list of upcoming meetings. You can have a list of previous meetings. And if the recordings, if the meetings were recorded and if recording was done in cloud, the learners will also be able to review the recordings in the same activity. I'll show you a little screenshot about it later on. Basically, one thing to note about using this feature, using the LTI for Zoom, is that all the meetings in one course will appear in will appear as a list, and there is no separation. So if you need that separation, in that case, perhaps a Zoom meeting would be a better thing to use, because if any meeting happened in that course at any stage that was created with the LTI activity, anybody who is learner and has access to that activity will be able to see it. So a good thing to keep that in mind. When you are accessing the Zoom meeting link, basically you are brought to a page as follows, and then you can choose to just run the meeting, so no need to install anything. You can just get straight through. And Zoom also offers mobile app, so you can also use the mobile app for accessing the meeting. The presenter view in Zoom looks as follows. So again, the presenter can manage participants, share a screen. Shared screen has the option of whiteboard and chat, record the session. Anything that is basically a standard is there, and this is an example of whiteboard. A particular feature of Zoom that I quite like is virtual background. So I think in the cases where more and more people are working from home, and perhaps they don't have an office at home, and background can be cluttered or have some personal stuff like photos, it is possible to set it to have like a San Francisco bridge photo, which is just right behind you, which is quite nice, I think, and it just adds a nice personality and feature to the meeting. The recommendation is to not wear similar color clothes when you're choosing the background, which kind of makes sense, I guess. And, if you ever attended a Zoom meeting, the chime sound that can be there when the participants are joining, or when the participants are leaving. And again, you have to think about the use cases. And, for sessions where you have up to 5 participants, that could be a good idea to have that chime and to announce when somebody is coming over. However, for sessions that have 100 or more learners, that would not suit, because it could be just too distracting. Okay, so I mentioned previously that recordings in Zoom can be saved on the computer or on the cloud. And if they are saved on the cloud, then the learners who have access to the LTI or external tool activity will be able to view the recording and download it. Really nice feature here is that you can download an audio file, but you can also download a video file. So really, it's up to you. It depends on how much space you have on your device. Perhaps video is not needed or was not used, so not necessary. But nice to have those options for kind of accessing recordings of the videos. And in Zoom meetings, it is also possible to have a report of the attendees, and you can see the name of the attendee, the email, what time they joined the session, what time they joined, and the duration of the time spent, which can be handy, I guess, especially if you have those sessions running throughout the year. At the end of the course, to make a report of how much time was actually spent in the sessions. So really handy tool. And the last but not the least, let's have a look at the BigBlueButton. So BigBlueButton is an open source web conferencing tool, and this would be the plugin that needs to be installed to your LMS, and then again, background configuration needs to happen. And once everything is set up, the APIs are set up and shared, and the systems basically talk to each other, then you can add a BigBlueButton activity to your course, as you were able to add even the Zoom activity. Okay, and the BigBlueButton would look as follows. So it is linking to the calendar. So that's handy again. And when the learner clicks on the BigBlueButton link, they have an option to join the session. There are two options to join the session. They can join in listen-only mode or in microphone. And when they are joining with microphone, there is an option to do the echo test. So you know the quality of the sound that you're going to have, which is handy. There are features for the presenter controls, so you know, whiteboard and breakout rooms, polling. Polling is a good one, I guess, in a way that you can have, for example, a presentation that you are sharing, and you can define the options that it is possible to choose from, and then very quickly you can just add a poll and say, okay, this is an ABC option or ABCD option if you have 4 answers available, and then you can really quickly post it and wait for the feedback from your participants. And BigBlueButton also has shared notes, which could be used for the trainer, for example, to indicate the key areas that are going to be discussed in the session, or this could also can be used to, for example, for students, for reflections, for the managing the key takeaways from the session and working on this together. With BigBlueButton, it is possible to upload your presentation to the application, and you can move around. So it's just handy to have everything in one place and have your presentation there. So you know, you can navigate back and forth and come back to the slide that you need to cover. And the BigBlueButton sessions can also be recorded, and the recordings are going to be saved under the BigBlueButton activity that is set up in a course. And after the session, the video is available, and also you can get a report, a statistics report that shows duration, number of attendees, then, for example, even the role that the attendees had, so how many facilitators you had and how many just attendees, time the participants spent in the session, and so on and so forth. So really handy, again, to have a report around each of the recorded session, and all of that data is downloadable. Okay, so I think that was really everything I wanted to cover today. And now, if you have any questions, you are welcome to ask. I see that there are a lot of questions here. Somebody is asking if this presentation can be shared. Absolutely no problem. We can share a video, and we can share the presentation also. If you are interested in getting the slide deck, do not hesitate to get in touch, and we can definitely share that around. There is a question of using the polling tools in the application, and which are not members of the MS Teams. To be honest with you, I think the best idea would be to contact the supplier, because these are all third-party applications. So if you are, if you are using that, if you want to go to Microsoft Teams support help desk and try and find that out. But definitely the thing to remember is that only the meeting scheduler needs to have an account to be able to schedule the meeting, but anybody else can join the session without any problem, without having the Microsoft account. There is a question also about the Zoom, and when you have Zoom plugin in the meeting, is the meeting only available to authenticated course participants? Absolutely, yes. So course, only anybody who can access the course will be able to access the meeting. However, if you are willing to share the link to the meeting, you can do so. So if you are the scheduler of the meeting, you can invite additional participants separately. Okay, let me just have a look in the chat area. Okay, there is a question about virtual background and meeting report. Are they available via the LTI? So the meeting report is definitely available via the LTI, and I guess it would be best to liaise with the Zoom regarding the virtual background, because I think there are some preconditions of having that set, and you have to have green background and all that stuff. So definitely Zoom team would be able to assist. Yeah, and again, somebody is just looking for the presentation and the slides, and there's no problem. They can be shared, no problem at all. Okay, so I guess if we have no further questions, we're gonna close the webinar, and I'm really hoping that it was useful and that will give you an idea of how the remote tools can be used in your LMS. And I wish you a really nice Easter weekend and stay safe, everybody.